Tonight, the woman who says she was attacked by a police officer who was dispatched to help her. Speaking exclusively to ITV News London, she tells us that despite the watchdog upholding her allegations, no misconduct hearing ever took place, and she feels justice was never done.
He strangled me to get me out of the way. Arms were flying everywhere from him. But the main thing I remember, his hands on my neck.
Also ahead, the judge who placed Sara Sharif in the care of her father, who went on to murder her, is named. Bus route cutbacks and the North East London MP who says the most vulnerable are being hit the hardest. Plus,
always believe in your soul. Looking for pastures new.
from new wave to new music, Gary Kemp is here to talk about his latest solo album and how he's embracing AI. Good evening. A woman who says she was strangled and then arrested by a Metropolitan police officer sent out to help her during a domestic incident has told ITV News London she still hasn't received justice 12 years on. Suna, whose name we've changed to protect her identity, recalls a police officer punching her brother in the head before holding her down by her neck. Well, both Suna and her brother then faced criminal charges, despite later being acquitted and the police watchdog upholding their complaint of assault. The officers involved have since been promoted. Well, Suna sat down with our reporter, Kath O'Patter.
He was punching my brother's head. And I know people have passed away from one punches even to the head.
In 2013, Suna says that she and her brother were assaulted by a Metropolitan police officer. PCM and PC Smith, as we've been told to call them, had been called to a domestic incident at Suna's home. While there, an argument ensued, followed by the alleged assault.
He strangled me to get me out of the way.
He strangled you?
Yeah. And in the scuffle, arms were flying everywhere from him. But the main thing I remember, his hands on my neck, pushing me down and choking me.
But despite being the victims, they were treated like criminals.
So they arrested yourself, your brother. What was the charge?
So they charged my brother for assault.
Assaulting them?
Yes. And they charged me with obstructing a police officer in the execution of their duty.
A year after this incident, both Suna and her brother were acquitted of all charges in a criminal trial. The judge noted that both siblings were of exemplary character, but most crucially, expressed serious concerns about the evidence provided by PCM and PC Smith. Fully exonerated, the siblings made a complaint to the police watchdog. It included allegations of being repeatedly punched in the head, being punched in the face, throat grabbing, unlawful arrest, entertainment and fabrication of accounts in court. All of these were upheld by the IOPC and the case was recommended for a gross misconduct hearing. It took the Metropolitan Police 5 years to bring forward a gross misconduct case against PCM and PC Smith. During that time, the IOPC had already upheld the siblings' complaints. A judge had expressed serious concerns about the evidence provided by PCM in court. Despite all of this, the case against both officers was dismissed. Why? Because it took too long to bring one forward. In response to our investigation, the Met said, "Our aim is to resolve misconduct matters as swiftly as possible, but it's only right we wait for any criminal proceedings or external investigations to take priority and conclude first, as happened in this case. The overall delay is clearly regrettable, and we have since increased the number of staff and lawyers we have working on misconduct matters to speed up the process."
This is an absolute scandal. I would ask the Commissioner Mark Rowley to look at this case because we have very serious allegations of perjury and attempting to pervert the course of justice. We have officers that are still serving and who've been promoted.
Despite no action being taken against the officers, Suna and her brother have continued their fight for justice. After a successful civil suit, they were awarded £50,000 in damages, but the Met has neither apologised or admitted liability.
Well, Kath is at New Scotland Yard for us this evening. And Kath, we're hearing more of misconduct hearings within the Met now. Have things changed?
That's right, Lucrezia, and I mean, this year alone I've been to 3 misconduct hearings, so it's safe to say that there's definitely been an uptick. Have things changed? Yes, they have. Ever since the Baroness Casey review, the Met have said they are committed to rooting out bad apples, which probably explains the rise in these types of cases. That being said, the system is not perfect. As you saw in my report, there are situations where police officers with serious allegations against them have their misconduct cases dismissed. Not because they're innocent, not because they've been cleared by the panel, but rather because it's taken too long to bring forward a gross misconduct case. The trouble with that is it's up to the panel's discretion to determine what length of time is too long. I've seen some misconduct cases where the allegations date back to 5 years, 6 years, 7 years or more, but the case still proceeds as normal. So yes, Lucrezia, things have changed. Yes, there is a rise in misconduct hearings and cases, but there are still holes which allow potentially bad apples to slip through the cracks.
All right, Kath at New Scotland Yard, thank you. Next tonight, the 3 judges involved in the family court proceedings involving Sara Sharif in the years before her murder have been named. The Court of Appeal ruled that an anonymity order protecting the identity of the judges should be overturned. Helen Keenan is here with me now. Helen, what part did the judges play in Sara's life?
Well, the family courts were involved with the Sharifs before Sara was even born, and she was actually mentioned in hearings when she was less than a week old. Now, she was just 10 when she was murdered by her father and stepmother in Woking in August 2023, and they are both serving life sentences. Today, we can name the judges who oversaw the family court hearings in the years before her death. They are Judge Alison Rayside. She sat on most of the hearings. Judge Peter Nathan and Judge Sally Williams. Now, those judges were granted anonymity by the judge who was overseeing the criminal trial because he felt they could be at risk of harm from a virtual lynch mob. But media organisations, including ITV News, appealed successfully, arguing that the judges must expect their decision-making to be the subject of public scrutiny.
Generally, we strive to have open justice, which means as much as can safely be shared with the public is shared. Of course, in the family courts, there are more sensitivities. Journalists and others understand that certain things have to be kept confidential, largely to protect victims, to protect vulnerable people. And I think the Court of Appeal has struck that balance.
So, Helen, how rare is it for family judges in these kind of court cases to retain their anonymity?
Well, it is rare. In fact, it's highly unusual, and the decision to uphold the appeal actually comes just days after new rules around more transparency have come in, which means permitting reporting from family courts across England and Wales. So in Sara's case, there were allegations that her father was abusive. There were decisions over which parents she should live with. She was in and out of foster care. And in 2019, a judge approved Sara moving to live with her father at the home in Woking, where she later died after a campaign of abuse.
I don't think the judges should be pilloried for what they did at the time with the knowledge that they've got at the time. Something has gone wrong along the way. There are lessons to be learned by all agencies, not just courts, judges, and they're at the tail end of it.
Well, ultimately, today's appeal was about the importance of transparency and scrutiny of decisions made by judges.
All right, Helen, thank you. Some other news now. The Notting Hill drill artist known as Digger D has been jailed for almost 4 years for supplying 45 kilograms of cannabis. The 24-year-old, whose real name is Reese Herbert, was arrested while on an Instagram live stream last February. Police are appealing for help to find 2 missing teenage girls from Morocco who disappeared while on a student exchange trip. 14-year-old Douay and 15-year-old Huda were last seen leaving their hostel on Tavistock Place on Tuesday. And the Prime Minister has called Emily Damari, the 28-year-old British-Israeli hostage who was released by Hamas last week. Her mother, Mandy, from Beckenham, told Sir Keir Starmer that she was doing well, but she has a long road to recovery. City of London Police say a proactive use of ANPR and CCTV has led to a spike in arrests. The force began utilising automatic number plate recognition in investigations last year. Since then, more than 100 arrests have been made and thousands of drug wraps seized. Despite the success of operations like these, robberies up in the area and shoplifting almost doubled last year. Well, Carolyn Sim went out with the force to see officers in action.
We joined the team in an unmarked car, and within minutes, Inspector James Shelton receives a number plate recognition alert. A white Tesla may have been stolen.
Stolen number plates are often used by those committing criminal offences in order to hide their identity of their vehicle.
We pull over to check it out.
Won't give me too long, just pull over to the left here for me.
But the driver is legitimate. This time, it's a false alarm. Next, a silver transit van whose number plates are linked to an alleged burglary are spotted by an ANPR camera.
Hello mate, you all right? Just turn the engine off for me.
This time, the driver and another man are questioned. They're led to the side of the road while officers search the van. Inside are large vats of cooking oil. The police database shows a hotel close by reported a theft of oil 6 days ago.
You are now at this point under arrest on suspicion of burglary.
It is an unusual one for us, but it just goes to show that the ANPR system works. No matter how serious the offence is, from shoplifting to human trafficking, these are the offences that we're seeing on a wide variety.
Intelligence-led operations like this led to 103 arrests last year, 19 weapons were seized and over 1,500 wraps of drugs were taken off the streets. The team's most successful prosecution happened last May. Following a stop and search, large quantities of cocaine and other drugs were found, along with over £1,000 in cash. 30-year-old George Rogovino was jailed for over 3 years for possession with intent to supply. But are operations like this effective in driving down crime? The latest figures show that robberies are up 24% in the City of London. Shoplifting is up 91%.
Whilst we are concerned about the rising crime trends, we are very determined here in the City of London to respond to them in the most positive way and prevent crime and incidents taking place in the first instance.
Meanwhile, the two suspects are taken separately into custody. A potential crime against a business in the Square Mile avoided.
Just watch your head as you go in. Take a seat there.
But the team's work will go on well into the night. Carolyn Sim, ITV News.
Next tonight, an MP in North East London is urging TfL to reverse changes to transport services that have often left children, elderly and disabled residents waiting more than an hour for a bus. Several routes from Walthamstow to Woodford have been reduced to just once an hour, with services regularly delayed or cancelled altogether. Tonight, Calvin Bailey is taking the complaint to Parliament with the aim of reinstating reliable transport for the constituents he says are most in need. Antoine Allen reports.
No bus in London should be an early bus.
Even in the rain, their anti-bus route protest wouldn't be silenced.
Restore our services.
These pensioners, disabled people and parents are united against changes to the bus route in Walthamstow, Wanstead and Woodford. The W12, W13 and W14 bus routes were altered by Transport for London in a plan that TfL said would simplify services. But these residents say it's made their lives more difficult.
My last heart attack, I'm sure, was due to the stress of what all this has put me through.
The testimony in church were from pensioners and parents stating the new route is adding hours to their travel or forcing them to get costly taxis. How has the change in bus route affected you?
Oh, terribly. It really has. My life, what I do, my social life, shopping.
My husband had to walk for over 40 minutes to get home. Otherwise, we'd have had to wait in the freezing cold.
TfL say on the new route W14, passengers have a higher frequency at the northern end of the route, as well as an evening and Sunday frequency for the first time. 26,500 more people now live within one bus journey of Whipps Cross Hospital. But these pensioners told me their journey to hospital appointments has become more difficult. Who here feels that TfL need to listen to you all and make the changes necessary? Their local MP heard the difficulties they have faced since the bus route changes in September.
The voices that we've heard today highlight some of the smaller in number but high in impact issues that some of the changes have made. And so these may not have been heard adequately in the consultation process.
Transport for London say they will continue to engage with the community. But from students to OAPs, they say TfL aren't listening to their plea to have their bus route back. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
Still to come on the programme. Flying the flag for Southwark school children, the pupils hoisting their own designs on the Golden Hind, and
This destination's here for you.
from Spandau to solo success, Gary Kemp is here to talk about his new album. But first, an East London schoolboy has taken it upon himself to improve road safety in Romford after a reception pupil was hit by a car that mounted the pavement. Ronnie Anderson has started a petition on the matter and is even lobbying the council to make the town's streets safer for school children. Anna Gary went to meet the young campaigner.
What? It's just mud.
Cars driving along pavements has become commonplace on this often congested road in East London. A headache for residents, but a danger for primary school pupils too. So tell me what happened in this area.
So a little boy got hit tragically by a car, and as people were coming out of school they saw it and it made them really sad.
The reception pupil is now doing well, but his leg was broken and he needed an operation. Ronnie is now on a mission to make sure that doesn't happen again.
I have made a petition about road safety. I've been trying to make the council do something about this road because my little brother is starting here soon and I don't want it to be safe for just him but everyone that comes here in the future of the school.
The road safety charity Break says 9 young children are harmed on UK roads every day. That equates to more than 3,000 aged just 7 and under who are killed or injured. So parents at Highlands Primary School are backing Ronnie's efforts to make the area safer.
What would you like to see happen? To be fair, I would quite like the school restriction times to come down here so that they can't come down during the school times.
They need to kind of think about ways to encourage people to not use their cars if they can. You know, there's a lot of people I think who probably live a lot closer than they really need to use their vehicle, or think about staggered drop-offs.
Try and encourage people to travel by foot. I think that would be great.
In the meanwhile, Ronnie pledges to keep raising his concerns to those representing his community to avoid another accident, particularly one which could be fatal. Anna Geary, ITV News.
Well, in response to Ronnie's story, Havering Council say that following a meeting of senior officers and the school's representatives, it's looking at a number of measures in the area to improve safety for pedestrians. All right, time to take a look at the weekend sports.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
In the Premier League, Tottenham Hotspur are away at Brentford on Sunday, hoping for a change of fortunes. Injury-stricken Spurs are sitting 15th in the table ahead of their West London trip after a run of 4 straight league defeats. Meanwhile, at the other end of the table, Arsenal are preparing to renew their rivalry with Man City at the Emirates. The last meeting between the sides in September saw a 2-2 draw in Manchester. The Gunners are currently second, with City down in 4th. And it's Arsenal versus City in the Women's Super League 2, with a familiar face returning to the Gunners. Chloe Kelly, who came up through the Arsenal Academy, is on loan from City, so could be facing off against her former teammate. So posting on Instagram, the Lionesses legend said, "Your roots always pull you back." Now, my guest tonight is a musician, a songwriter and a founding member of a band whose music helped define a generation.
Always believe in your soul. You've got the power to know.
I know this much is true.
The unmistakable sound of Spandau Ballet was some of the biggest hits of the 80s, written, of course, by Gary Kemp, whose latest album, This Destination, is out now.
This destination's here for you.
I am very pleased to say that Gary is here to tell us all about it. Gary, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
This Destination, third solo album. There you go. Look at this vinyl. This is quite old school because you go very futuristic for this with the videos. We're going to get to that in a minute, but this is lovely bit of vinyl here. Listen, your most personal album to date, apparently. How come?
I think, you know, as you get older, you've made more mistakes, you've got more challenges, you've facing mortality, I suppose, and you start to think about all those things, and that's what goes with me into my writing room. And, you know, I'm writing for myself to sing, so I think it's personal, but hopefully it's universal as well.
Yeah, and you know, you say your writing room because I mean, you've been writing since I don't know, since you were a kid, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
this has been life for you for a long time.
Yeah.
But interestingly, for this album, it was post-pandemic, wasn't it? So you had a bit of anxiety, you had a bit of writer's block. Is that right?
I had a bit of anxiety, which I think was brought on for many reasons. I mean, I think we all live with doom scrolling, and you know, we
especially at that time,
we feel the weight of the world. I did have a little bit of writer's block one day, or one particular time, and I got a call from Richard Hawley, who's this amazing musician that we know, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to write a song." He said, "Okay, go to your piano." I went to my piano. He said, "Close your eyes, put your hands out over the piano. I'm going to go now, and you're going to write an amazing song."
Yeah.
And I think he just kick-started me into doing it.
Yeah.
But also because I admire his work so much.
Yeah. Let's just look at this video. We can see this playing. Now, this is from the new album. You've got 3 videos, haven't you? The interesting thing about them, Gary, they're all AI.
They are AI.
Controversial.
Well, you see, the record companies nowadays, especially for me, weren't going to pay for me to make a video, or big video at all. So I met this guy, Mike Benyon, who's an AI director just starting out, and I just, you know, with manipulating the machine and putting the lyrics in, and it started to come up with images that were kind of like the song. With video, I think it's okay.
Yeah, because that's going to be my question, because I said controversial because, you know, we see it when it comes to music now, and that's always been the kind of preoccupation or worry, isn't it, for artists as well. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I would never let music or lyrics be conjured up by a machine. I mean, I think that when we listen to art or we read art, we want to know that we're not alone in the world.
Yes.
That there's someone else out there, an artist, who's encapsulated our feelings.
It's got to be human, hasn't it?
Yeah, if it's a machine, you're alone.
Talking of human responses, this is fantastic. 'Cause I know you're a massive Arsenal fan. You're an Islington boy, aren't you? Islington boy? Yeah, so massive Arsenal fan. You're at Wembley. I don't know when it is exactly, but listen to the crowd and what they're singing. I'm going to play you now. You can't escape that song, can you? That's goal, but they're singing at Wembley. They don't know you're there.
We'd just beaten Man City, actually. You know, no, they didn't even know who I was. My son, though, who's sitting next to me, he's 15. He put his hood up and he just sat there like that, embarrassed by it. But it's
embarrassing, Dad.
It feels amazing when that happens. It's like it's become a folk song.
Yeah, and listen, I know that you've been touring as well, so you've been on the road still. What is next? What is next for you?
I don't know, maybe, I mean, I'm still doing my podcast, Rock on Tours, which I do all the time, but I think it's going to be either playing this album live or going out again with Nick Mason.
Yeah, and very quickly, Arsenal playing this weekend, we heard. They're going to win?
Oh, God, I hope so. I hope so. We're playing catch-up to Liverpool the whole time.
Gary, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with the album. Right, it is time for the all-important weather forecast. What's it going to be looking like for the weekend? Here's Holly.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV London weekend weather.
Hello, good evening. It's been a bit of a damp, drizzly and gloomy end to the working week, hasn't it? This weekend, it is looking settled, mostly, perhaps not entirely, but mostly dry. Cloudy at first, but actually it does brighten up as the weekend wears on. So high pressure's dominating things, that's keeping weather fronts at bay. Initially, quite a lot of cloud, but we do start to draw up some drier air from the continent, and that will help to brighten our skies into Sunday. So out there this evening, a lot of cloud around. It's quite low as well, giving a murky feel, a touch of drizzle in places. The cloud lifts up a touch as the night wears on, and it acts as a blanket as well. So temperatures stay up above freezing for tonight, 3, 4, 5 degrees as we head into our Saturday morning. But it is quite a cloudy start to the day and a little bit murky for some initially perhaps as well. Now you might see a few bright spells breaking out as the day goes on, but they may well be in fairly short supply. And temperatures are tending to struggle as well. So we're looking at highs of around 6 to 8 degrees for tomorrow. Now if we zoom out to look at the picture of tomorrow evening and overnight, you'll notice the way this band of cloud just starts to clear a little bit more. So hopefully that should lead to quite a bright story into Sunday. It could well be quite a cold night, I think, Saturday night. We could see a touch of frost in places as we start Sunday morning. But yeah, Sunday itself, we should get to see some nice sunshine. Sunday night, again, I think quite a chilly night on the way. The beginning of next week, fairly settled. We could possibly see a weather front heading our way, maybe Tuesday night, for example, but it's not a particularly active affair. And in general, I think quite a lot of settled weather on the way.
TUI sponsors ITV London Weekend Weather.
And finally this evening, school children from Southwark have truly been able to nail their colours to the mast on one of the Thames' most recognisable vessels. The Golden Hind stands proudly on the river's south bank, and today some young creative competition winners were able to see their very own flag designs hoisted on the replica of a ship that explored the world. Olivia Guthrie was there.
Raising brand new banners on one of London's most historic sites and raising spirits on a particularly damp January morning in Southwark today. The flags being hoisted are the winning entries of a competition to design new ones for the Golden Hind ship.
The art teacher came into the form room and he said that I had won, and everybody was really happy, and I couldn't quite believe it.
What did it feel like when you saw it actually being raised?
It was really cool because it was my design but in a flag up there.
The brief for the new flags was to depict the Golden Hind's history. 12-year-old Martha's creation shows a map with an anchor rope twisting through it to represent the ship's epic journey. The design by Lois, who's 10, has a pelican for the very first name of the galleon, as well as a hind or female deer and a globe for its round-the-world seafaring. It was the first English ship to circumnavigate the world, Francis Drake setting sail in 1577 during the reign of Elizabeth I.
The original vessel succumbed to rot. This reconstruction was built half a century ago using traditional design, materials and techniques to mark the 400th anniversary of the famous voyage.
Almost 400 years after Sir Francis Drake headed for the unknown Americas, his little ship, the Golden Hind, returns to the Thames.
The replica Golden Hind then embarked on its own circumnavigation in 1973, a modern crew following the original 16th century voyage.
She's not comfortable, and even the toughest tummies of, though they've said nothing makes me seasick, I'm afraid they all fell foul of the Golden Hind. So no, she's not comfortable, she's not fast, she's particularly slow, unless there's a good breeze.
However wet it was this morning, there wasn't much of a good breeze. But with the new flags now flying on the Golden Hind, things are looking up. Olivia Guthrie, ITV News.
And that's it from us. The evening news is next with Charlene, but from all of us on the London team, bye-bye, have a great evening.